How you
Mm,
doing, Maria?
that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Look,
Where you at in your cycle?
I I'm at the end of my luteal
Yeah.
and just noticed some like old blood coming out and some like light spotting happening.
Yeah.
So that that's been happening usually like 1 or 2 days before,
Hmm.
and then I'll have pretty solid bleed for 2 days. And then
Yeah.
that's how it's been the last few cycles. And it's been felt like a pretty good report card.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, just noticing that the brown blood today and being like,
Yeah.
oh, it's coming.
It's coming. Warning.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
I'm doing like today's the first day of a 3-day fast for me.
Amazing.
So I just like plan that because my roommate's like leaving town tonight, so it just was like felt
The
needed. And
right time.
yeah, and then I noticed the spotting today, and I'm like, oh, like this kind of could be perfect because I'm gonna break fast on Tuesday morning.
Uh-huh. I
So
actually
yeah.
I've explored fasting with my cycle and how to work with fasting in my cycle. And the
Yeah.
best that I've found is to fast right at the beginning of my cycle. So you're right, like what I would recommend, you're right there. And this is because
Oh.
this is the lowest. And this might feel unintuitive because typically, like, our moon time is when we, nourish our bodies and tend to our bodies, but it's actually the only point in our cycle where our hormones are this low.
Mm,
And so the cortisol that's going to be created through fasting, because your body goes into a bit of a survival mode, it starts to, yeah, signal like stress hormones. But it's not going to impact the cadence of our cycle quite as much because our
mm,
hormones are already so low.
mm.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool to know.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that, but I just
Yeah.
felt intuitively, like you said, I'm like, well, I'll be shedding, and like
Uh-huh.
that's why I'm wanting to give my body a break. I'm wanting to have a detox and do some shedding. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no like scientific proof that that's true, but just with
yeah,
my understanding of the
yeah.
female body, as well as like my own exploration with fasting and my cycle, because there's a lot of things like cold plunging, and I usually try not to fast or do too many intense, heavy stress causing activities in my luteal phase because I feel a lot
Mm,
more sensitive. But as soon as I start bleeding, I feel like it's this like portal, and I can, especially with fasting, when we're fasting, especially for longer periods of time, it's like we get so intuitive. We come into our higher chakras. It's like this vata phase. And
mm,
it's the same with our cycle. It's like the time when we're most intuitive, most spiritually in tune, where we can like tap into higher realms and tap into intuition. And I
mm,
feel like it goes really hand in hand with fasting
mm,
in a really beautiful way. And it's this beautiful detox. Like when you fast, you're also having an incredible detox on your body. So you can kind of merge them and
mm,
yeah, use them together. And then as soon as you break fast, like your hormones will also start booting up. Your estrogen will start rising. There'll be this kind of new invigorated life. So I think it's actually perfect.
mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you? You mentioned that you had a really intense bleed this cycle.
Yeah, it was more intense than they normally are.
Mm,
And just a lot of heavy pain and a lot of density in my abdomen and just like sore in my body and quite a long bleed as well. It lasted about 7 days, which I usually don't go more than 5. And it was quite stagnant in the beginning and then a little bit at the end. And usually that's a sign to me that I haven't exercised enough in my cycle.
mm,
Um, if I do a good balance of exercise, I find that my bleed comes a little bit more vigorously and it comes quicker and it's not like this long drawn out process.
mm,
Um, but this time it just felt like a really big letting go this cycle. I was also drawn to like cut my hair. I haven't shaved, like trimmed my pubes or my armpit hair in 10 months. And when I
Hmm.
was bleeding, I just wanted to like let go.
Yeah.
So I like cut my own hair. I, trimmed my armpit hair and my pubes for the first time, and it just felt like this really big like release and like let go. And just energetically, I felt like I was holding on to a lot, and a lot was getting built up in my system. And I feel, yeah, really good, really light now
Mm,
with all of that kind of density leaving me. But it was really asking me to just be present in my body and listen to that pain and just density coming up and allow space for it. And
mm,
yeah, I find when I make space for it, like the gifts just come in abundance
mm,
after the fact. So
mm,
ready to welcome that in. And yeah, when I
mm.
give my blood back to my garden and my compost, I'm always like on the first few days, I'm praying to, the universe, the divine, the moon, Pachamama, my own body, and just, vocalizing what it is I'm letting go of. And then
Mhm,
as soon as my bleed finishes, I'm, vocalize what it is I'm calling in, you know.
mhm.
And it's just really, really beautiful, powerful process. And when it's a heavy bleed, it's often like brings me even deeper into that place, which I'm grateful for.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm excited for your 3-day fast. Is it a dry fast or a water fast?
A water fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be drinking lots of water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make
and
sure
yeah.
try and put some salt or some minerals in your water as well if you have them.
Mhm,
And my partner has been doing some research. We do quite a bit of fasting,
mhm.
and he said it's really important to give your body, as soon as you break fast, a lot of protein.
Okay.
So he was even looking into getting like pea protein. And I can get more info and I can send you a message after. Just I heard I was like, I'm going out. Do you need anything? He's like, I want pea protein to help with my fast, and just made a comment about how beneficial protein is when you're fasting and when you break fast, just
Mhm.
to help the detox process. So I'll send you a note about that after we're done. Just get his intel on that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how I've broken fast before is by cooking, like cracking an egg in an avocado halve and
Mm-hmm.
putting that in. And it's like, oh my God, with salt and pepper
Oh,
and the runny yolk. And I'm just like,
uh-huh.
God, eat it so slow. I'm just like, this is
Yeah,
incredible.
I know. It's so
Yeah,
beautiful. It's so beautiful to have that like reverence for your food
yeah,
after like withholding yourself from so long, and you have such a deep appreciation, and it's such a like spiritual interaction with the food that you're eating, and just how much attention we give the food that we're breaking fast with, but also that like we do that every single day when we wake up in the morning, and it's just a reminder of how sacred our bodies are and the medicine that we take in, and just being so, yeah, just so mindful about.
yeah. That's part of it too. Like, because I've just been eating like more sugar than usual and
Mhm.
more like pastas and stuff. And it just, I'm wanting to be more mindful of that, like just that sacred time and
Mhm.
just like slowing down a bit and
Yeah.
right. So calling in that slow stability and reverence. And yeah.
And having the house to yourself is really nice too, for both your bleed and fasting. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
it is perfect. So tonight, yeah, will be fun. We'll do some candlelit time and reading,
Hmm.
writing, and just, yeah,
Yeah.
really relish in that
Yeah.
time. It's been a
Hmm.
it's been a while since I've had alone times. Like I have it every day, but like yeah, the house to myself. So
Yeah, that's a whole other energy,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, my Matt's little sister is living with us right now. She came
Mhm.
down here and she's been here about 3 weeks now, and she's having an amazing time right now. She's doing a mushroom ceremony and just like having these big, incredible openings. And she's trying fasting for the first time. And like basically, she came down here and she was like, I want to live with you guys and like go to Spirit University. I just finished university, my degree, but I want to learn other things, and I want to, it's been so beautiful to just like have that energy in the house and just
Yeah.
pour into her.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do some fasting in the next. She's never done a fast. We're gonna do, yeah, maybe a 3 day. I've never
Mm.
done a dry fast, which I'm super curious to do.
Is that where you don't drink water
You
either?
don't drink anything, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, my partner did one, Matt did one recently, and he said, it's crazy. After you're in your 24-hour fast, it's like you walk downstairs and your instinct is to go into the kitchen and to get some food, right? And you have to hold that back. He said, when you're dry fasting, you're just sitting there, and like every second or third thought you have is just like, I'm thirsty, need water. Like you can't really focus on anything. The body's just always like, get me water, get me water. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Dry fasting scares me a little bit, but I think I want to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. I'd want to try it in like at like where I don't have to do regular life things.
For
Like
sure.
sacred time.
With this 3 day fast, are you going to do regular life things?
Yeah, well, like I'm slowing down a lot, but yeah, I'm like walking Nala every day. And then on Monday, I'll go to my math class in the morning.
Hmm.
But it's like, it's, yeah, pretty, pretty slow and quiet. And
Cool.
I'll walk slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Going to a math class after a 3 day fast, that's kind of funny.
I
No
know.
brain power.
It'll be my third day. I'll just be like, I'll just be quiet. I'll get through it.
Yeah, just be present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. I'm
Exactly.
excited for you. I'm excited for
Yeah.
this moon time fast,
Oh,
alone time
yeah. Thank you.
combination.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm excited about our the session that you've prepared today because I love this so much and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. So,
I'm still learning. It's
yeah.
definitely been, yeah, just an interesting journey and coming back home to myself, and through these different energetics and dynamics. So I love exploring it. I love talking about it, and I love sharing my experience. So I'm excited to dive in with you. So I have this quote that I wanted to share, which is from Aubrey Marcus, and he says, I just feel like it encapsulates my relationship to minerals and why I do this work. And he says, you're not just living on Earth, you are her. You are comprised of 84 minerals, 23 elements, and 8 gallons of water, spread across 38 trillion cells. You have been built up from nothing but the spare parts of the Earth you have consumed, according to a set of instructions hidden in a double helix small enough to be carried by a sperm. You are recycled butterflies, plants, rocks, streams, firewood, wolf fur, and shark teeth, broken down into their smallest parts and rebuilt into our planet's most complex living things.
Mm,
Mm-hmm. So
love.
just a moment to honor that. And I felt like it matched this image as well on
Mhm.
the screen. And it's just a reminder that, when I work with the minerals and I remember, we come from all of the organisms and the bits of soil and the rivers and streams. When we remember that we are minerals, we remember that we are magic. We remember that we are not separate from nature. And in every sense of the word, we defy logic and yet we still exist.
Mhm.
And it's just a reminder at how, divine truly like this experience is and this life that we get to live and this awareness that we have. And when I think of minerals, that's really the drive and the work that I do is just to remember that I am, a part of something so much greater than myself. And I feel like working with my cycle is also a reminder of that, a reminder that I'm not separate from nature and that our female physiology is something to be regarded with such admiration and awe and such divinity. And it inspires so much awe inside of me. And so it's part of the reason why I do this work in this image on the screen. I think I'm on the wrong side of the screen, but the tree is when I was drinking ayahuasca and in the Moon Lodge for so long, like I found this tree on my walk one day and I would go and visit it every day,
Mm.
and I would give offerings to this tree and I would pray to this tree and I would like thank it for its presence because it felt like a reflection of myself in the natural world. And you can see, the vaginal essence of this tree and in the rock face and all around us all the time. It's just our we are made up of the world around us. And oftentimes we forget in our hustle bustle of life and stress, and we forget to look around and see that, we are connected to all these cycles. And a realization that I had, I've been studying Ayurveda on and off for the last 4 years. And it's all about our connection to the elements and how the elements make, everything has this essence of kapha, pitta, and vata, the earth, fire, water, air, ether. Like everything in the universe has an essence connected to these elements. And all living beings also have this masculine and feminine dynamic. And we can see the masculine and feminine in the sun and moon. So, really, we're made up of the sun, the moon, water, fire, earth, and air. And that's just like to have that perspective as you move through the world is just so brilliant. It's like I will just continue opening up to this and continue learning this for the rest of my life, and just learning the subtleties of all of these energies that make me who I am. And just a reminder that, we are not separate from all of these, the seasons, the air, the elements, the sun, the moon. And in Ayurveda, they talk about your Vikriti and your Prakriti. So that's the blueprint that you were born with, and then where you are now. So it's like if you were born with more fire element, more pitta inside of you, but certain things have happened in your life. Like when I got really sick, my pitta became really, really muted because I was sick and I was vulnerable and I needed the help of others around me, like I couldn't fight for myself. My fire went out a little bit. But I think I was born with more fire. I was fire dominant, but certain situations bring us out of that fiery place and bring us more into the water or air or ether, into that more vata energy. And so we have this blueprint that we were born with, and then all these things that change and alter us. And I think that's true also with the masculine and feminine. And so when I talk about masculine and feminine, I'm talking about energies that go way far beyond men and women. You can define anything in the universe into these two categories. And some of the examples that I like to use are like in Costa Rica, we have a lot of rolling hills, right? The landscape is very feminine. And where I lived before I moved here, I was in Whistler, which is like really rocky mountains. And you can just feel like my energy shifts based on the landscape that I'm in, right? The Whistler, you're in the Rocky Mountains, it's like so penetrating, it's so awe-inspiring, it's so like just hard and intense and beautiful and striking. But then here you have these like soft, gentle rolling hills, and you can just feel in the landscape that there's so much more femininity there, and there's such a strength and masculine and poignance in Whistler. The sun and the moon, obviously, the sky and the earth. So the earth is very fertile, it's very rich, it's very giving, and the sky is very open and expansive. And like everything in the universe. I like the example of, New York City. is very masculine, right? It's where people go for meetings and there's lots of work and it's hustle bustle and all of the, skyscrapers are very penetrating, they're very masculine. And then people go to Hawaii for a vacation to drop into their feminine, right? So like New York City is masculine and Hawaii is feminine. And so it's just energies and you can feel these energies everywhere. You can feel them in food, you can feel them in people, you can feel them in places. And so this goes so far beyond, and I like to think of masculine and feminine as a spectrum, and we all fall somewhere on that spectrum. And we also have our Vikriti and our Prakriti. We have our blueprint with what we were born with, and then where we've come maybe out of balance, or maybe we intentionally came out of balance. But I really think that when we're born in a female body, we have a feminine blueprint. So we are capable of hosting both masculine and feminine energies, of course. It's a spectrum and it's just an energy of the universe. But I think that our bodies, they speak a particular language and our bodies don't lie. So I like to think, vulva, vulnerability, vagina, it's like the truth is woven into our physiology. We are this receptive, this open vessel, right? And when we engage in sex or get around, we soften. When men engage in sex, they harden. So it's this energetic, penises, they're penetrating, they're hard, they have direction and they have purpose, they point. And so while we can be all of it, we can be masculine and feminine, we can be anywhere on the spectrum, I really think that our body is our blueprint and our body doesn't lie. And so I think that all female born individuals are like born into this blueprint of the feminine and can host more of that feminine energy. And vulnerability, I used to think, was seen as something weak, but anytime a flower opens, it's vulnerable. And a flower can't show its full beauty unless it opens. So it needs to be vulnerable to be its fullest expression. And when we're closed, we cannot receive love. And so just really tuning into that for myself has been such a journey because oftentimes I don't want to be seen as vulnerable and weak. And it's still untying those enmeshed beliefs that I have around my own femininity. So this is a tattoo that I got 6 years ago, and it still just rings so true. And I'm not big on tattoos, especially with my work around minerals and realizing like all the heavy metals that are in tattoos. I have a bit of yeah, just conflicted opinions about tattoos in general. But this one I got 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now. Actually, Reka gave it to me.
Wow.
And it's the rising woman symbol, and it represents alchemy and transformation. It's the moon eclipsing the sun and the divine union of feminine and masculine polarities. And it's a symbol, at least for me, of becoming whole and awakening to your highest potential. And so just having this on my body, it just constantly reminds me to balance these energies within myself. And then this is like lifelong work of coming home to myself and awakening this highest potential when I'm back in balance. Because for a long time I was really out of balance. And that was me when I was 16 years old, wearing, a double push-up bra, a really tight dress, tons of makeup, like trying to be this idea of the feminine that I thought society wanted me to be. And then years later, very much in my masculine, trying to protect myself, trying to cover myself up, not actually wanting to show my feminine side because my feminine side felt like she was weak and she couldn't stand up for herself and she got taken advantage of. So
Yeah.
it's almost like I came I've gone through shifts where the pendulum swung in both directions. And finally, like, I'm at a place where I feel really comfortable. My relationship to the color pink is so representative of my relationship with my femininity because I hated this color for such a long time. Because I thought it made me weak and I associated femininity with weakness. And it's been such a beautiful homecoming to come back to that understanding and just reverence for my body and that my femininity and my vulnerability is the strongest parts of myself, and it's the parts that feel most like home.
Mhm.
Another thing that I found with my masculine side is that anytime I was in my masculine, I injured myself.
Mm.
And so there was this pushing. It was pushing to be something that I wasn't. And what's interesting is that all of these injuries over the last 10 years have always been on my right side.
Wow.
Every single one. So I tore my right ACL.
Mhm.
I broke my right wrist, and the virus that attacked my brain attacked my right temporal lobe. And so the right side is associated with the masculine side. And it's always, I'm pushing too hard. I'm trying to force something that's not there. I'm trying to like be stronger or be more logical or be more organized or get shit done. And then it
Mhm.
breaks because I'm actually not supposed to be in that energy.
Yeah.
And it's just the body doesn't lie. And like all of these experiences, they like live with me now
Mhm.
in such a deep way of like reminding me to come back and reminding me that it's okay and it's safe in my feminine. And I don't need to be this tough girl that can just take care of herself and get that can be independent and that I can rely on others and I can, open up to my creative potential and don't have to be so logical. And these teachings are woven into my flesh now, and it's so hard to forget them. Um, yeah, and I recognize too that, my hyper masculinity also came from a place of trauma, that I felt like I was too vulnerable in my feminine because the masculine had taken advantage of me from such a young age. And if I started showing femininity, I would I would get hurt. So I grew this masculine energy to protect myself. And I still really I love that I have that in me. I love that I can protect myself. And what's been really nice being in this relationship is that I can open into my feminine more, but I know that I always have my masculine side and it's always balancing the two, but seeing where there's imbalances, right? And all of these accidents showed me where my imbalances lie.
Mhm.
Mhm. So it's always a spectrum, and I like to think of it as two poles, and you fall somewhere on that spectrum. And sometimes, it feels simplistic, but it's sometimes really nice to just put it in simplistic terms and like zoom out this far, to be able to implement it and see how it changes in your life. So maybe you're 90% feminine or 10% masculine. Maybe you're 60% feminine, 40% masculine. But you can always alter this, and you can come back into behaviors. And a really good teaching lesson for me was I started doing partnered dance
Mm.
where you have a very clear, I loved dancing. It was my favorite thing of like partying and clubbing and drinking was the dance. And when I gave that up a few years ago, I really missed dance. So I started doing partner dance and I came up against this really interesting energetic, which was that when I watched couples dance and I was doing ballroom and salsa and bachata and all these dances, when I watched couples dance, I really wanted to be the follow. Like I liked the follow in, I wanted to be led.
Hmm.
And the follow, the female part of the dance, they get to do all of these like beautiful accents and like twirl their hair and their arms and like do all these kind of showy things. But when I went to go dance, I wouldn't let myself be led. And I every single time I stepped into like the dance class, I had to work through this because I didn't actually trust my partner to lead me.
Hmm.
And it was such a good practice for me of balancing my masculine and feminine and getting really clear on what I wanted.
Hmm.
And someone, a question for me that really helps frame masculine and feminine, especially in relationship, is like, do you want to be ravished or do you want to be the ravisher?
Hmm.
And like when you're thinking about sexual polarity, like which one do you want to be? Because I've been in relationships where I've been in relationships with women where
Hmm.
I am the feminine pole.
Hmm.
And I've been in relationships with women where I'm in the masculine pole. And I've been in relationships with men where it's the same and getting really clear on like, do you want to be swept off your feet or do you want to sweep someone else off their feet?
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're the man or woman, but like which pole do you want to be? Because that's what creates this passion in
Hmm.
a relationship. And you often hear about couples becoming like best friends.
Hmm.
And I've been that. I've had 50-50 relationships and for some people it works, but for me it just didn't. It killed that passion. So I want to talk a little bit about the energies of the universe and the law of polarity, which is that everything has two poles. There's good and evil, there's love and hate, there's light and dark, black and white, north and south. Everything in the universe has opposition, it's dual. And this is allows us to experience life to the fullest. There is no light without dark.
Hmm.
And for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's the Newton's third law of motion. And it's that forces come in pairs, right? There's a negative and a positive force. Electricity cannot run unless there's a negative and positive. The Earth can't spin on its axis unless there's a North Pole and a South Pole. For these energetic processes to happen, there needs to be a positive and negative. So when we think about, sexual passion and that energy, there has to be a masculine and a feminine pole. And you can nurture these energies in yourself, but you can also use that magnetic pull. You can use this law of polarity to pull others into you like a magnet.
Hmm.
And it's really fun to just work with this. And so sexual polarity is this natural energetic charge, just like, positive and negative charges in electrical circuits or the north and south poles. They're just natural charges of the universe, the
Hmm.
masculine and feminine. And what it creates is sexual polarity. So we know when we have two magnets and we put them north to north, they repel. But when we orient them south to north, they pull together. And so, like, that's the kind of energy we want to be creating in our relationship. And it's this energy that's created between the masculine and feminine poles. And you see this in nature all the time with the dance of storms. Storms are created when high pressure system meets a low pressure system and they start to swirl and wrestle. And they create this charge that
Hmm.
creates this beautiful storm that just happens in front of your face. And, lightning strikes and the thunder roars. And so there's just this excitement, this buildup. And it's just forces of the universe. And it's nice to just feel that. You probably felt that in your relational dynamics, but you can see that everywhere, and it's just a force of the universe. And you can
Totally.
learn how to cultivate it in yourself. So I wanted to show this other video because I really like this idea. The demonstration we're talking about today. Can you hear that? Or do I need to
Yeah,
share my volume? You can hear it?
I can. Yeah.
The demonstration we're talking about today is resonance. What happens when an object is forced to vibrate at its natural frequency? This tuning fork has a natural frequency of 256 hertz. And this tuning fork is adjustable. Right now, it's set to 256 hertz as well. When I hit this tuning fork and point the boxes at each other,
The sound waves from this tuning fork will cause this box to vibrate. When that box vibrates, it makes the tuning fork vibrate. So when I do this, I'm going to hit this tuning fork, but you can still hear it vibrating. A lot of times people think it's the original tuning fork still making noise, but it's the other one. What's happening is the sound waves from this tuning fork are actually causing the paired tuning fork to vibrate.
I like that example of resonance. And in relationship, like we have this masculine, feminine polarity, this charge that's being created that creates passion, sexual passion in a relationship. And for me, in my relationship, when I met my partner, there wasn't a lot of sexual polarity. It wasn't there, but there was such a deep resonance. And like over time, I could just feel that the resonance was so deep that he spoke the language of my soul. You know, like resonance is something that you feel on a soul level, it's heartfelt. And then passion is something that we can create. It's like a charge that we can build up. So it's like these balancing of these two that I think is just so powerful in relationships and just becomes like any relationship that I engage with now. It's like, do we resonate? Is there a resonant frequency between us?
The demonstration we're talking.
I'm gonna pause.
The demonstration we're talking.
So in that example, you can see that resonance occurs, you know, when one vibrating item causes an object, another object to vibrate at the same frequency. And so it's like these two objects are able to host this frequency, and therefore they amplify each other's energy. And this happens with instruments, but it's just a universal resonance. It can happen with anything that can host energy. And when you think of quantum physics, the world is made up of atoms, right? But atoms are mostly empty space. Right? So
Vibrate.
it's all just vibrating energy.
Yeah.
Everywhere around us is just vibrating energy. And so we all have this capability of hosting energy, right?
Mhm.
And when you meet someone that can match that energy, you start vibrating. And I don't know if you felt this, but you meet someone and you resonate and you just leave feeling like, wow, I feel so heard and seen and amplified. You can just feel like a vibrational match between
Mhm.
somebody, with somebody. And it doesn't need to be just somebody. It can be an animal, it can be a plant, it can be a place, it can be a song. You know, we can't we can't mentally explain why we like the music that we like. You know, like you can't, oh, I really like, I mean, you could say I really like her voice or I really like the lyrics, but like genres of music you're drawn to, you know, or songs you're drawn to, you can't explain it with words, but you can feel it, right?
Mhm.
It's just a resonance. And yeah, like I said, with my partner, it was just this deep resonance. I was like, wow, this is on a soul level. And this quote, I hope you find someone who speaks your language so you don't have to spend your lifetime translating your soul. Like that just felt so true and pure. And when I finished university, there was just such a strong draw to go to South America. And I couldn't intellectually explain why. You know, I'd never been there, I didn't know anyone there, but I was just like, I need to go. There's something there for me. And I could feel as soon as I landed that there was a resonance. And so when we're, you know, integrating and beginning to attune ourselves to resonance, we can actually like change our frequency like a radio station. You know, so it's like if you want to be in a relationship with someone that's really trustworthy, you have to change your resonance to be really trustworthy. And you're going to attract that in. You can't call in what you aren't able to host because you're going to repel that. Like the magnets facing north to north, if you can't actually allow that like resonance to come in, it's not going to attract to you. And what I found with Matt and I, like we were on our own journey. We met in South America, but we had no intention of like finding a partner, neither of us. But it was just this deep resonance and this drive to work on ourselves and like tend to ourselves and explore ourselves that like drew us together. I remember the first time we had a conversation, he touched my arm and I could feel his arm there for like hours and hours afterwards. There was just like this deep resonance that was created between us. And before we can match that to others and other things, we need to get to know what our unique resonance feels like. And what I think is so beautiful about cycle awareness is that every month we have an opportunity to hone this skill, right? Because every phase of our cycle has a different energetic charge to it. And that energy is coming from our hormones. You know, our hormones are actually shifting our biology. And if we're able to live in our alignment with our biology, we can fall in deeper into what it means to authentically be us and be in our female biology and be a woman and tap into this feminine energy. So one of the questions that I posed was, are you able to host the frequency that comes with ovulatory energy? Like, are you actually able to hold that and be that magnetic draw? And I know a lot of women that they have a really hard time in their ovulatory phase, you know,
Mhm.
and they feel really run down or they don't, yeah, they don't feel this magnetic pull. And it's like, where in your life are you stopping yourself from allowing that energetic to flow through you? Because your body wants you to be magnetic in that state. Like our body is always pushing for reproduction and it wants you to be that way. And you can see that in all of the science that I shared about, you know, men being more attracted to women at different phases of their cycles. And so are you able to host the frequency that comes with ovulatory energy? Are you allowed, do you allow yourself to descend into the dark void of rest and decay that accompanies moon time? Like, can you actually host that frequency of like death and decay and rebirth? You know, because it's not something that we're usually able to allow ourselves to go there. And it's not something in our society that's like very normalized and taught and praised.
Mhm.
And so it's reteaching ourselves that this is just an energetic resonance that we all have to go through at some point. You know, there's nothing more certain than that we're all going to die one day. You
Mhm.
know, and moon time is the energy of that death, you know? And so it's like learning how to practice that each month and like get in tune with that and allow that to kind of consume you a little bit and go there, go to that kind of dark, scary place. And one of my questions was, do you match these energies? Do you allow them to move through you or do you push them away? And I feel like oftentimes we deny that that's a part of ourselves. You know, we try and push away our biology and these energetic shifts that we go through. And so cycle awareness for me is a practice of embracing and accepting all parts of myself and therefore living authentically and showing up authentically within each and every moment,
Mm.
which is so powerful. And to live and understand resonance in this way, it just shifts kind of your whole perception that this is the resonance of your hormones. It's the resonance of your biology right now. It's what it's trying to do. And it's speaking to you. You know, it's speaking to you in whispers, and the body always whispers until it screams.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I feel like when I have a really heavy moon time. It's like, go there. You know, she's going to take me there and I'm going to listen. And
Mhm.
sometimes I even feel like I push away my moon time, you know, because I'm not as productive. I'm not as like outright and social, and I can't get as much done. And I have all these expectations of how I want to show up every day. And
Mhm.
whenever I come to my moon time, I can't show up in the same way, and I have to completely change what my expectations of myself are.
Mhm.
It's such a beautiful practice. And
Mm,
I took this quote from Womb Awakening
mm,
that you shared with me. So, the feminine is a riddling realm, as ancient bards knew. We so often want the clear, shining light of masculine logic to explain everything, but the feminine leads us into mystery. She opens herself into doorways, questions, and possibilities, pointing to places the light can't reach.
mm,
Mhm. So beautifully articulated and spoken poetry and pointing
mhm.
to places where the light can't reach. And you can even feel that in our physiology, it's a dark hole.
Yeah.
Like we can't deny it.
Yeah.
That's the truth is in our physiology and learning how to explore those energies, even though it feels hard and dark and confusing, but learning how to fall deep into that feminine unknown is such a valuable and beautiful practice.
Mhm.
Some of my questions for you were, have you cultivated a relationship to your unique resonance? And do you have this strong gut feeling, this like, have you felt that resonance before with something in your life, with places? Like sometimes I arrive places and I'm like, oh, I've been here before, or this feels like home. Another question I have is like, where do you lie on the spectrum of masculine and feminine? Is that something you've explored?
Mhm.
I'm curious what your relationship to your femininity, masculinity, like how that's unfolded for you. Thus,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been that opening of the rose, the flower for me, and that softening journey into the feminine. Because similarly, like going more into my masculine, to protect myself and to um not be vulnerable.
mm-hmm,
But then like awakening to the fact that I do want to be vulnerable and that it's safe to be in my feminine. And then like on the like side too is that like expression of the unhealthy feminine, right? That
mm-hmm,
of that wanting to be chosen, wanting to do anything, to get love,
mm-hmm,
and instead of knowing that that's the fountain within me or that's something that I give myself. So for sure, like it's been part of my journey as well in that softening, that opening, and that allowing of like, yeah, this is who I am and this is what I want.
mm-hmm,
And just that the healing work and the healing and being whole and being balanced and it like rooted in that understanding that uh if when I hold these energies in myself, then
mm-hmm,
that just it's a law of the universe. It will just magnetize a match, a vibrational match. So yeah, and then I also wanted to share what was the other thing that I had in my mind? Oh yeah, that I want to be ravished. Like I just do, and that's okay. And so
right?
like it's like waiting and using the masculine discernment and everything we've
Mm-hmm,
learned to vet the partners to make sure that that's someone who is healthy enough and enough of a vibrational match that they can show up in that way. And I think what I've learned from the past is that like a lot of men like want to be around me and want to be in my energy because it's like really warm and fun, but like
mm-hmm,
that's me in my like not being vulnerable, me performing, and it's like I'm still not like letting them in because I can tell right off the bat that they're not it's not it. It's not a match. And then, but then I don't like, in the past, I haven't like communicated that and I've made it way more complicated for myself. And down the line, it's not sustainable and it falls apart because they know and they're pissed off that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not letting them in and they're pissed off that they're not a match.
Mm-hmm.
You know that what I'm saying?
And then
So
you still have those people-pleasing tendencies, right? Where you want to like
exactly.
cradle them and
Make
hold
it
them and
work.
nurture them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then pair that with having sex way too early to create a bond,
Yeah.
and it's just false, you know?
Yeah.
So, or it's like not true to myself and not true to their unique expression of their soul either, because it's not that there's like a hierarchy or whatever, it's just we're at different vibrational signatures for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just different. And so I really have loved like learning about the elements and the laws of the universe and these polarities because it's
Mhm.
just like true. It do be true, you know? And so it's like a
Exactly.
great,
Exactly. There is some truth in the universe, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
everyone has their own truth, but there are these universal truths that we can keep
yeah,
coming back to, and the body doesn't lie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like a map, definitely, like a helpful guiding system. So yeah, that's like brings me to now where I'm just like really, really just taking care of myself
Mm,
and in really enjoying celibacy
yeah.
and just like just having faith that whomever will come when they come, when the time's
Hmm.
right. But like I'm so
Hmm.
grateful I'm done with just um like I have my core beliefs and values really
Rooted.
rooted now where it's like the things that caused so much suffering and problems in the past, like it's just
Hmm.
done. Like it won't be a problem anymore, which is just like really nice.
And
Yeah,
sometimes you need to take that time with yourself to like really integrate all of that and like
yeah,
understand that and that time of celibacy and that vow to yourself that the next person that you let in
yeah,
is going to be a vibrational match,
yeah.
for me, and just holding your sexuality to that sacredness and your body to that level that like you really want to let this person in because
Yeah.
they amplify your energy, right? They raise your energy instead of take from you.
Mhm.
What's been a really interesting exploration for me is I've always felt a little uncomfortable in my femininity, except in sexual contexts. Like sensuality is very feminine. And I find like in the bedroom, I can be really feminine.
Mhm.
And my partner and I were doing a year of celibacy
Mhm.
where I can't express like my femininity in that way anymore. And so it's learning how to navigate still being the feminine pole in the relationship without using my sexuality as a way to get there. Right? Because
Wow.
there's so many different ways that we can express femininity and we can create polarity, and like the goal of polarity like creates sexual passion, of course, but it also creates just this magnetic pull in the relationship. So learning how to do that without sex on the table. Like we don't talk about sex. We don't watch anything with sex in it.
Mhm.
We don't there's no touching, and so learning how to still create that polarity and that passion and that, just energy moving within a relationship where there isn't that has been such an interesting exploration and I've learned so much about myself through it.
Mm.
And also like love language as well. Like I tend to show love through physical touch and like not having that. It's just I think celibacy when you're by yourself is a beautiful exploration, but it's a whole other thing when
Right?
you're in a relationship. Yeah, it's so profound though, honestly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, we're closing our year in 2 months.
Yay! In February.
Yeah, in February. And as part of some greater like
Shamanic things.
There's greater shamanic processes to it, but a big part of it is like no salt, no sex, no sugar, no drugs, no alcohol are like the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sex is a big one for both of us, and it's been a really beautiful healing journey. But still, yeah, maintaining that polarity. And we've done this before, and it's part of like in the Amazon, this is how the indigenous learn how to become shamans and communicate with plants and teachers, and they basically are doctors of the Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they make prescriptions by giving you certain herbs, and how they learn is through dieting. So when you diet, you like sacrifice all of these things to learn from a plant, and then that
Mm-hmm.
plant gives you the teachings.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm learning from everything around me and everything, in every single interaction I have and in my relationship. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
really, really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But also excited to come back to my body.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
definitely.
And integrate as well too,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
a year is a long time.
it is.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
learning how to, yeah, manage these masculine and feminine dynamics is lifelong work. And it's so beautiful to have these just understandings. And yeah, just make it so simple. I'll be like, do you want to be ravished or do you want to be the ravisher? I really like that question because it just simplifies it. And you kind of know gut feeling what the answer
Right.
is, right?
Yeah.
You know, your body's just like, this is what I want. And so
Yeah.
then you take, okay, if this is what I want in a relationship, where are my actions not aligning with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, it really felt like I was in my masculine because I didn't trust the masculine,
Yeah. Same.
right? And so it's actually learning how to trust the masculine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And I find often too, like with looking at relationships, especially intimate relationships, with this, like, okay, so you have the polarity aspect and you have the resonance aspect. And when you bring the two together, that's like where the magic is,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like when you resonate and you can create polarity and have that sexual passion, but you still are really deeply connected on a soul level
Mm-hmm.
where like your values are aligned and like you have this unifying force and then you create this passion within the relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that like I like to think of the chakras and like
Mm-hmm.
the polarity, it lives in those lower chakras, right? It's the root chakra, it's your safety and security, your survival chakra, it's your sacral chakra, you know, your sexual energy, and then your solar plexus, you know, your confidence, I am, you know, self-worth, all in those, like you can play with those with polarity. And then you have your upper chakras where the resonance lives, and that's like more your soul level. And then you have your heart in the middle where you like bring the two together.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's where, you know, unconditional love opens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like bringing those two worlds. But always for me, like there's lots of instances where you can resonate with someone, but there's no polarity. And there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of instances where there's polarity and you feel a sexual charge, but there's no resonance. And it's actually like
Mm-hmm.
listening to that and being like, okay, there's a sexual charge there,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no resonance. So like,
Mm-hmm.
what is this actually going to fulfill in me?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like if it's not feeding that resonance that like I want to amplify and
Mm-hmm.
like heighten my own energy, my authentic resonance, then
Mm-hmm.
like why am I engaging in that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what is the root of that desire?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of my sexual interactions previous to Matt, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it was missing that like key resonant piece.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
with Matt, initially I was like, are we going to be able to make this work?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you can cultivate that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to be in a relationship with a man, and at the beginning of our relationship, like I was the masculine pole.
Yeah.
And then to switch, like, no, well,
Yeah.
let's actually come back into balance here. Because I think, like, authentically at our root, that's what we want to be, but circumstances in our lives have led us here.
Mm-hmm.
But recognizing that and having that conversation in a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. It was beautiful to journey like that together.
Yeah. Can I share a little bit
Of
about,
course.
yeah. So there's this guy that his name's Oliver. And when we met 3 years ago, it was like just immediate. Like, I don't know. It was like I recognized him from like we did go to the same high school. He was like a
Mhm.
year younger than me, but it was like in that eye contact, of that like I don't know. And we fell in love like super quickly. And like that was a lesson in itself. Like we also
Mhm.
were intimate like way sooner than 3 months.
Mhm.
But like he wasn't doing well. He has a lot of trauma and sort of like I've learned like sometime like even though he did fall in love with me, he
Mhm.
wasn't looking at that pain. He wasn't healing it. And
Mhm.
so things started bubbling up to the surface and it became clear that it wasn't like a vibrational match.
Mhm.
But we've been through such like an evolution in our relationship. He, we like stayed in touch and then he went and got a job in the bush that I set him up with because like his whole thing was like, I don't have like a purpose. I
Mm.
and I'm
Mhm.
depressed and this and that. And so I was like, it became clear to me that like it wasn't gonna work. Like I can only like go so far,
You can't
And
give him purpose either,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And it's like, he can love me, but he's gonna eventually start treating me bad because he's
Mm.
unhealthy and I'm
And he
there.
doesn't have purpose.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. So then flash forward to last year, we had like a falling out after I went to visit him because it was like imbalanced.
Mhm.
Like I went to go visit him and he started acting up again because
Yeah.
still, and I was so mad and hurt that after that, I said, look, I got to close the door for good. Like, I see your inner child. I love
Mhm.
you, but like, you need to do some work. And like, I hope we can meet again in the future, but like, just enough, kind of like it was just too much. And then he went and like immediately got together with like this mutual friend and whom he had been in a sexual relationship before, and she has a farm and he started like living in her cabin at the farm in with her
Mhm.
family, living at her yurt. And it like broke my heart. Like
Mhm.
we kind of had this agreement that we weren't going to talk for 6 months and he was going to work on himself, and then he
Yeah.
went and chose to get with her and do that, and it just like it I'm grateful now because it totally helped me release the unhealthy attachment and
Mhm.
like I've bloomed so much in the last 6 months because of that, like me being
Uh-huh.
like, fuck that, like so it's helped me grow up and grow.
Mhm.
But then in the summer, like she contacted me a couple times, being like, things aren't going well, and
Yeah.
I just was like honest with her and was like, this guy needs to do the work and he's distracting himself from healing by being with women and then not treating them
Mhm.
well. So he's got to do the work.
Yeah, and
And yeah,
go
and
ahead,
I
go ahead.
was like, really, I don't know, but like, okay, to wrap this up, it's hard because there's this strong, like, soul thing with him. But then there's also like, yeah, so I've let it go. I've been like, but I had this feeling he was gonna come like apologize in September, and he
Mhm.
did. And I like didn't respond to his email because I wasn't ready yet. But then
Mhm.
we just like spoke on the phone last weekend, and he like did a heartfelt apology and was like, I wasn't in a good place. And so I said my boundary is that like we're just gonna be friends and
Mhm.
super slow,
Yeah.
and because it's clear, like he's hasn't completely alchemized his pain in
Hmm.
6 months, especially when he spent 5 of those months having sex with someone else and being unhealthy. And so I feel really good about it, but
Hmm.
I'm like I'm really needing to temper and
Yeah.
have that boundary up of like, like if he can show me that he's well enough over a course of time, then would love to open up romantically again because
Mhm.
like we had a special thing, but like you picking up what I'm putting down.
A
But
hundred percent.
yeah,
A
so
hundred
it's like
percent.
it's been challenging because there is a lot of love there, but like
For
he's
sure.
he's needing to do the work and so it's nice, like we're talking, we're gonna go for a walk when I'm visiting in Guelph,
Hmm.
but I just need to make sure I'm keeping it like just like
Yeah.
if he wants to come back in, he needs to be explicit. He needs to prove himself over time that he's emotionally a safe person for me and that he's
Hmm.
well. And like, but we're not there like at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's great because of the distance. So we're not going to be getting into
Hmm.
passionate, like
The
there's so
physical
much,
side of things.
oh, there's so much polarity. It's like insane. That's what,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but the resonance, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's
And
like, and
the
I can't do
polarity
the work
can.
for him, but it's seeming like he wants to resonate on a more loving
Mhm.
and kind and harmonious place.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, like I'll believe, and that's why he's pulled to me so much, is because that's who I am to my core. Is like
Hmm.
a pure, like I want harmony, I want loving kindness, and he's a bit more like masculine, like yeah, like but yeah, you know what I'm saying. So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
story. So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah,
And I find every time we say things out loud, we like have more clarity around them too,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
thank you for opening up this space and creating this to be a space just to explore that and to find clarity around it. And
yeah,
something that came up for me while you were speaking is just the understanding that, if we don't look at our own shit, it doesn't matter where we go. We're gonna just take it with us. So like
yeah,
anytime I'm having issues in my relationship and I like think this isn't working, it's like this is just going to come up again in the next one.
yeah,
If I don't look at it, if I don't work through it, it's like, I feel like so many relationships end because people are like, I can't work through this with this person.
yeah,
And then they go to the next one and the same shit comes up. And it's like, it's not actually their shit, it's your shit to work through.
exactly.
Right. And so he, left and started dating this other girl. And then the same shit came up because it's just
Yeah,
his shit.
yeah.
Right. And
And
I
then
guess
I
for
look
you,
at
it's like,
it,
are you
yeah.
willing to help him heal that shit? Like,
I'm like within boundaries. Like
mm-hmm,
I think, and he said like my intention, I don't want to bring chaos into your life. And like I've always been with that mindset that you just shared, been like, how am I contributing to this dynamic? What is my lesson? How am I
mm-hmm,
learning from it? And I think my lessons are like to shoulders back, stand up for myself and like say, like,
100%.
you can't treat me that way. Like I'm not going to stick around.
Yeah.
And so that's been um really, really empowering
Mm-hmm,
to do that. And I think as long as he can, yeah, like I'm okay with the level of communication right now.
mm-hmm. I
And
think
yeah,
I think too, like you have to probably like why your soul is resonating with his is because there's lessons in there for you to learn how to stand up for yourself, to
yeah,
make those boundaries, to like
yeah,
solidify that. Because I think so many people get into these relationships where their partners don't push them so they can
yeah,
stay comfortable and safe in who they are,
yeah,
right? But like if we want to grow and grow into our fullest expression, it's our partners that are gonna like trigger us and force us to become that,
yeah,
right? To align
yeah,
to our fullest potential, right? And like he might be that for you,
yeah. Down the
but
line.
man without a
Yes,
purpose
yes,
is very,
Yeah.
very unstable. You know, like a man without a
So he's,
purpose.
yeah, yeah,
You know, like I would ask, that would be one of my first questions when you see him is like, okay, have you found your purpose?
yeah, he's planning this big canoe trip that he
Uh-huh.
wants to, yeah, he wants to like stop in at all of these First Nations and have it be filmed and stuff on this big river.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, you plan that, you execute it. I
Uh-huh. Let's
I
you.
believe in you. You got
Mhm.
this. That sounds amazing, you know,
Yeah.
really, really good. And yeah, and I think like another big lesson for me is like no, like stating my needs, not being afraid and just not saying anything and closing my shell, being like,
Uh-huh.
hey, like I need this and like or like that wasn't cool. And so and
Hmm.
without getting overly emotional, just
Yeah.
being like, it's not like it's just this is
Hmm.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think too, you know, like back to like the physiology piece is like penises are directional,
Hmm.
right? Like they point
Yeah.
and they like point and they shoot, right?
Hmm.
And like men need to have direction,
They do.
right? Like if they don't, they're just floundering.
Yeah.
Whereas like women, we can like open, right? And we can explore many different things. If men don't have a direction, it's like they're actually not in tune with like their physiology, their masculine energy. And that's where you see like the dark side of the masculine come out, right?
Yeah.
Because they get insecure, they get unsure, they get, you know, lost.
Yeah.
And so it's like ha a man with a direction is like for at least for me and like for me to open to my femininity and to trust him, like I need to trust that he has a direction and that
Yeah.
he like points and shoots and like
Yeah.
I resonate with the direction that he's going in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. At least that's been in my experience in the last 2 years has been really, really potent. And
Mhm.
being with men previously that just are seeking, you know, like
Yeah.
instant gratification, you know,
Yeah.
and not playing the long game.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So that would be, but it sounds like as you talk about him, it sounds like there's some medicine in him for you and like things for
Mhm.
you to learn and like
Yeah.
push yourself and grow within that relationship. But I would definitely be weary of like,
Yeah. Attaching again. Because
hmm.
it's, yeah. Yeah. Because he's definitely playing the long game now, which I appreciate. And so I'm wondering if it will be uh like a way for me to open like explore my femininity too with the not attaching to him, not like being mindful of my thinking,
Hmm.
which has been really good. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about him again. Like I need to think about something I can do for myself.
Hmm.
And like that's a really good exercise.
Hmm.
And then he like, you know, we talk every now and then. He texts me. He's like, I'm gonna make this flying squirrel into something for you. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
like, you know, like just
Amazing.
chill out a bit, right? And
Hmm.
then let him figure out how he wants to step into his
Hmm.
masculine
Yeah.
more by me allowing it and being,
A
but still
hundred
having my
percent.
boundary of like, yeah, like I do love you. Like it's clear, like we're, but it's like because of what happened, you have to show me with your actions.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
are a safe person for me to
Yeah.
let in again. I'm not just gonna like let you in again, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
That's exciting. And
Yeah.
I love that there's such a deep resonance there too, because
Yeah.
like that's really the thing, that's the glue that's gonna hold it together
Yeah.
too, right? And you know, he has to prove himself, but people are capable of changing. Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. As long as there's trust there, you know,
Yeah.
trust really at the base of every
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So like, yeah, slowly building, rebuilding that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow up with you next week.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, there's also one more breathwork technique
Okay.
that I like